Om Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavanam Dhyayet Sarva Vigno Pashantahe. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhi Tamastu Mavet Pishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Agajhanana Patmarkam Gajanana Maharnisham Anekadantam Bhaktanam Ekadantam Upasmahe Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha Gurave Sarva Lokanam Vishaje Bhavaroginam Nidaye Sarva Vidyanam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Asmat Guru Charanaravindaabhyam Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Jnananandamaham Devam Nirmalaspatikakritim Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Shri Hayagrivam Upasmahe Shri Hayagrivam Namaha Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Shri Mahasaraswati Namaha Uma Komala Hastabja Sambhavitalatakam Hiranyakundalam Vande Kumaram Pushkarasrajam Vetrivel Muruganak Hara Lokaviryam Mahapujyam Sarvaraksha Vibhum Parvati Hridayanandam Shastaram Pranamamyaham Swamiye Sharanamayappa Vagarta Viva Sampraktau Vagarta Pratipattaye Jagadah Pitaro Vande Parvati Parameshwaro Shri Parvati Parameshwarabhyam Namaha Komalam Kujayan Venum Shyamaloyam Kumarakah Veda Vedyam Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Asmat Guru Charanaravindaabhyam Namaha Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Nath Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Nath Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare Shri Nath Narayana Vasudeva Pitambaram Karavirajita Chakra Shanka Kaumodaki Sarasijam Karuna Samudram Radha Sahayam Atisundara Mandahasam Vatalayesham Anisham Hridibhavayami Krishno Rakshatu Mam Charachara Guruhum Krishnam Namasye Sadha Krishne Naiva Surakshito Hamasakritam Krishnaya Dattam Manaha Krishna Deva Samudbhavo Mama Vibho Krishnasya Dasosmyaham Krishne Bhakti Rachanchalastu Bhagavan He Krishna Tubhyam Namaha Shri Guruvayurappa Sharanam Namranam Sannidhatte Satatamapi Purastairanabhyartitanapi Artan Kamanajasram Vitarati Paramananda Sandram Gatim Cham Itham Nisheshalabhyo Niravadika Phalah Parijato Hare Tvam Kshudram Tam Shakravati Dhrumam Abhilashadi Vyartamartya Prajohyam Shri Guruvayurappa Sharanam Shri Bhattapadam Anisham Hridibhavayami Vamshi Vibhushita Karat Navaniradaabhat Pitambarat Arunabimba Phaladaroshtat Purnendu Sundaramukat Arabindhanetrat Krishnat Param Kimapi Tattvamaham Najane Kairandum Kupinyan Vindu Mirakunnu Niraja Lochana Ninodhai Etinu Manyane Kumbidenda Toru Ritiyil Nihenne Palhikennai Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare Jaya Krishna Hare. Welcome everyone. Good evening. Let's do a quick review of week 30. Gopiji, can you do 30? Can you maybe do half? Vijaya, can you do the other half? Are you able to do it today?
Yeah. Yeah.
Gopiji, you do the first half, right?
Sure. चक्रेण संयति हतोऽपि बलिर्महात्मा शुक्रेण जीवदतनुः क्रतुवर्धितोष्मा विक्रान्तिमान् भयनिलीन सुरां त्रिलोकीं चक्रे वशे स तव मुखाददीतः पुत्रार्तिदर्शनवशदादिर्विषण्णा तं काश्यपं निजपतिं शरणं प्रपन्ना तत्पूजनं तदुदितं हि पयोव्रताख्यं द्वादशोऽहम् अचरत् त्वयि भक्तिपूर्णा.
That last line, Sha Dwadashaham Acharat Tvai Bhakti Purna.
सा द्वादशाहम् अचरत् त्वयि भक्तिपूर्णा तस्यावधौ त्वयि निलीन मतेरमुष्याः श्यामाश्च दुर्भुज वपुस् स्वयमाविरासीः नम्रां च तामिह भवत्तनयो भवेयं गोप्यं मदीक्षणमिति प्रलपन्नयासीः त्वं काश्यपे तपसि सन्निधत्तदानीं प्राप्तोऽसि गर्भमिदतेः प्रणुतो विधात्राः प्रासूत चक्रप्रकटः वैष्णवे दिव्यरूपं सा द्वादशि श्रवण पुण्य दिने भवन्तम्.
Gopiji, the first line, last word, Sanni Dhadat Tadanim. Can you say that again, that word?
Yeah, I will just repeat that. Tvam kashyape tapasi sannidhat tadanim.
Sanni Dhadat Tadanim.
Sannidhat. Okay. Sannidhat tadanim.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Punyashramam dhama bhivarshati pushpavarshaihi harshakule suragane kritaturya khoshe बद्ध्वाञ्जलिं जय जयेति नुतः पितृभ्यां त्वं तत्क्षणे पडुतमं वडुरूपमाधाः.
That's good. Okay. Vijay, you want to do the rest? Go ahead.
Yeah. I have to start from sixth one, right?
Yeah, sixth one. Yeah.
Okay. तावत् प्रजापतिमुखैर् उपनीयमौञ्जी दण्डाजिनाक्ष वलयादि प्रर्चमानः देदीप्यमानवपुरीशकृताग्निकार्यः त्वं प्रशातिता बलिगृहं प्रकृता स्वमेधम्.
The last line, Tvam Prastita
बलिगृहं प्रकृता स्वमेधम् कात्रेण पावि महिमोचित गौरवं प्राक् व्यावृण्व धरणीं चलयन्नयासीः छत्रं परोक्ष्मतिरणार्तम् इव वाददानो दण्डं च दानव जनश्विव सन्निधातुम्.
The third line, the Chatram Paroshmati Ranartam Ivada Dhano.
Chatram Paroshmati Ranartam Ivada Dhano.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Chatram paroshmadiranartam ivadadano. Okay. Tam narmato taratate ayameta shalam आशेतु शीत्वयि रुचा तव रुत्तनेत्रैः पार्श्वान् किमेष दहनोनु सनत्कुमारो योगीनुगोयमिति शुक्रमुखैः आनीतमाशु महसा विभूदैः त्वां रम्य रूपमशुरः पुलकावृताङ्गः भक्त्या समेत्य सुकृति परिनिच्य पादौ तत्तोऽयम् अन्वत्रुत मूर्धनि तीर्थम् प्रह्लादवंशजतया कृतभिर्विचेषु विश्वासतोनु ततितं तितिजोऽपि लेपे यत्ते पदाम्पु गिरिशस्य शिरोऽपि लाल्यं सत्वं विभो पुरुपुरालय पालयेताः कृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
Okay, let's get started with the sixth stanza. So Sandeep, can you be a student today? It's your back today. And then Rupa, Rupa, can you be a student first after?
Sure, I can be a student.
All right. So stanza 6. Nissandeham ditikulapatau त्वय्यशेषार्पणं तद्व्यातन्वाने मुमुचुर्षयः सामरा पुष्पवर्षं दिव्यं रूपं तव च तदितं पश्यतां विश्वभाजाम् उच्चैः अवृददवधीकृत्य विश्वाण्डभाण्डम्. So we saw last time, right, where hearing an echo. Sandeep, I just muted you. I think maybe this echo is coming from there. So last time when Shukracharya comes and tells, right, Bali that no, this is Vishnu himself, so don't offer what he's asking for. But Mahabali says, if it's a Lord indeed who has come in front of me, then I can't say no to him, right? When he's coming and asking for something, so I want to go ahead. So without nissandeham, without any doubt, when Bali decides to offer whatever he wants, whatever the Lord has asked for, right? What is asked for. So at the time, everybody is like really pleasantly happy and surprised and amazed that he's actually going ahead with this. So when that happens, then the form of the Lord, so it's what it says here is the form which was as Vamana. Vamana itself means dwarf, like we said. That form of the Lord started growing in size. When Bali offers, okay, you take what you want, it starts growing in size. As the entire world is looking and as he's looking, the Lord's size form just starts growing in size such that Vishwanda Bhandam, the Andam, it starts percolating the entire Andam, the entire, like you said in the Stambhe Gata Yuga, it's the entire Brahmandam, right? It was reverberating. Here, this form starts taking that entire size of it. So the Virat Swarupam of the Lord is the form of the Lord which covers the 14 lokas, right? That's the Virat Rupam of the Lord. So similarly here, he's now beginning to occupy the entire cosmic space. That's what is happening here. So Nissandeham Diti Kulapatau, comma, Tvaya Shesharpanam. So Tvaya Shesha Arpanam, but you can say it together. Tvaya Shesharpanam Tad, and then put a plus, and then Vyatan Vane. So after that, you put a comma. So one comma after Diti Kula Patau, second comma after Vyatan Vane, comma. Mumuchur Rishayaha is there, put a is, Rishayas. Samaraha, put a if, Samara Pushpavarsham. Nissandeham Diti Kula Patau, Tvaya Shesharpanam Tad Vyatan Vane. Mumuchurrishayas samarah pushpavarsham. Want to go ahead, Sandeep? Yeah.
Okay. Nissandeham ditikulapatau tvayasesharpanam tad vyatanvane mumuchur rishayas samara pushpavarsham. Oh, second time. Lost the track. Nissandeham ditikulapatau tvayasesharpanam tad vyatanvane mumuchur rishayas samara pushpavarsham.
निस्सन्देहं धितिकुलपतो त्वय्यशेषार्पणं तद् व्यातन्वाने मुमुचुर्षयः सामरः पुष्पवर्षम् निस्सन्देहं धितिकुलपतो त्वय्यशेषार्पणं तद् व्यातन्वाने मुमुचुर्षयः सामरः पुष्पवर्षम्
Divyam Rupam Tava Cha Tadidam, comma, Pashyatam Vishwa Bhajam. Put a im at the end of that line. Vishwa Bhajam and then a comma. Next line, that mu that you have, remove it, make it a u. Uchair Uchaihi. The ra that is there, remove that, put a visarga and a comma. Uchair Uchaihi, comma. Next to the ra, there becomes a a there. The next word, you can break it if you want. Avridhat avadhi kritya, if you want to break it. Avridhat avadhi kritya vishwanda bhandam. Divyam rupam tavacha tadidam pashyatam vishwabhajam uchair uchaihi avridhat avadhi kritya vishwanda bhandam.
Divyam rupam tava chadadidam pasyatam viswabhajam uccairuccaihi avruda avadhikrutya viswandabhandam. Divyam rupam tava chadadidam pasyatam viswabhajam uccairuccaihi avruda avadhikrutya viswandabhandam.
Sandeep, the third line, right? You said pas is ish, pashyatam vishwa bhajam. Both of them are ish.
What did I say?
You said pas is, you said is.
Pasya. Pashyatam. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Telugu.
दिव्यं रूपं तव हि तदिदं पश्यतां विश्वभाजाम् उच्चैरुच्चैर्हि आवृध अवधीकृत्य विश्वाण्डभाण्डम् दिव्यं रूपं तव च तदिदं पश्यतां विश्वभाजाम् उच्चैरुच्चैर्हि आवृध अवधीकृत्य विश्वाण्डभाण्डम्.
Rupa, the last line, Uchair Uchaihi. I think you are saying an extra ir at that time again. That ir ra goes away, right? Ra goes away. That's why it's Uchair Uchaihi Avridhat Avadhi.
Uchaihi Avridha Avadhi.
Yeah, Avridhat Avadhi, correct. Yeah. Okay. Stanza 7. Tvatpadhagram nijapadagatam.
Sorry, ஒரே ஒரு question. அது
Go ahead.
avruda avadhi.
If you want to break it, because on the avridha, second dha, then there is a first dha, right? Avridha dha. So other one, you can't say it continuously. So that's why you break that second, the dha that is coming second time, which is the first dha. You break it into it and a, just to say it easily. So avridhat avadhi kritya. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stanza 7. Tvatpadagram nijapadagatam pundarikoddhavosau kundi toyaihi asichadapunadya jalam vishwalokan harshotkarshat subahunanute kecharairutsavismin bherim nignan Bhuvanamachara Jambavan Bhaktishali. So the form of the Lord was so big that your pada agram. Agram means the tip of it, the front of the foot, right? That's why agre pashyami, when it says the 100th stanza, in the beginning, tip of it, or in front of me. So the tip of the foot is reaching Satyaloka. So that's the size of it. So when the tip of the feet reaches Satyaloka, so Brahma, who's sitting there, is now getting a vision of the tip of the foot. So he takes the water that he has in his kamandalu, which is the kundi toye. Kundi is referring to the kamandalu, and then toye is the water. So he takes that water and then he does the abhishekam to the Lord. So that water later on, right, it says that is a water that becomes the Ganges or any other thing that is becoming the Vishwalokan. It's that water which purifies the entire world. So that water Brahma is now pouring on the Lord's foot there, and then he is doing an abhishekam there. Then the rest of the world, everybody is happy. And here he says Jambavan. So Jambavan is here. Jambavan Bhaktishali. He says one of your sternest of devotees, Jambavan, is now extremely happy and is going around the world. So Jambavan is one of the few who's been there across multiple avatarams, right? So we all know he is in Rama avataram. So I'm sure, do you all know that he was also in Krishna avataram? Right? Because Krishna marries Jambavati, who's Jambavan's daughter, right? So Jambavan is there in Rama avataram, he's there in Krishna avataram. He was also there in Kurma avataram when the churning was happening. He's also there in this avatar. There are a few of them who are there across multiple of these avatars, including Hanuman, right? So Hanuman is there in Rama avataram. Hanuman also comes in Krishna avataram because during Mahabharata, Bhima has an encounter with Hanuman, right? So anyway, there are a few of them who come everywhere. So here he says Jambavan is one of your sternest devotee, and he's going around the world, praising you, right? That's what is essentially happening. He doesn't have a role to play in this. He's just calling that he's going around the world praising you. So Tvat Padagram Nija Pada Gatam, comma, Pundari Kod Bhavosau. One word together. Pundari Kod Bhavosau, comma, Kundi Toyehi. The ra that is there, remove the ra. First put a visarga and a comma. Kundi Toyehi, comma. Next word starts with a a. So asichat. So even that word, if you want to break it, the same logic we used last time, the that is coming. If you want to break it, you break it into it and a. So you can say asichat apunadyajalam. Okay. So asichat apunadyajalam vishwa lokan. Tvatpadagram nijapadagatam pundari kodbhavosau kundi toheihi Asichadapunadyajalam Vishwalokan.
Tvatpadagram nijapadagatam pundarikoddhavosau kunditoyaihi asijadapunadyajalam vishwalokan. Tvatpadagram nijapadagatam pundarikoddhavosau kunditoyaihi Asijatapunadyachalam vishwalokan.
Tvatpadagram nijapadagatam pundarikoddhavosau kunditoyaihi asichadapunadyajalam vishwalokan. Tvatpadagram nijapadagatam pundarikoddhavosau kunditoyaihi asichadapunadyajalam vishwalokan.
Harshot karshat, comma, Subahu nanrite. Next word, you can break it as Kecharair Utsavesmin if you want to break it, or you can say it together. Kecharair Utsavesmin. That's fine. Comma. Bherim Nignan, comma. Bhuvanam Acharaj Jambavan Bhaktishali. Harshot Karshat Subahunarute Kecharairutsavesmin Bherim Nignan Bhuvanamachara Jambavan Bhaktishali.
Harshot Karshat Subahunarute Kecharairutsavismin
भेरीं निघ्नन् भुवनमचरज्जाम्बवन् भक्तिशाली.
Sandeep, the third line is a comma after Harshot Karshat. Here is a comma there.
हर्षोत्कर्षात् सुबहुननुते केचरैरुत्सवेऽस्मिन् भेरीं निघ्नन् भुवनमचरज्जाम्बवन् भक्तिशाली.
Even the fourth line after Nignan, there is a pause. Okay. Bherim Nignan. Yeah.
हर्षोत्कर्षात् सुबहुननृते खेचरेरुत्सवेऽस्मिन् भेरिन्निघ्नन् भुवनमचरज्जाम्बवान् भक्तिशाली. हर्षोत्कर्षात् सुबहुननृते खेचरेरुत्सवेऽस्मिन् भेरिन्निघ्नन् भुवनमचरज्जाम्बवान् भक्तिशाली.
Answer 8. तावद्धैत्यास्त्वनुमतिमृते भर्तुरारब्धयुद्धाः देवोपेतैर्भवदनुचरैः सङ्गता भङ्गमापन् कालात्मायं वसति पुरतो यद्वशात् प्राग्जिता स्मः किं वो युद्धैरिति बलिगिरा तेतपातालमापुः. So when the Lord had grown in size, and the previous stanza, when Bhattadripat said that the tip of the foot reached the Satya Loka, that is like he's indirectly saying that this entire body is occupying all the worlds. That's what it means. He's not explicitly saying that 1 foot he kept here, 2nd foot he kept there. He's grown in such a size that he's occupied the entire Bhuloka and Bhuvarloka, the upper worlds, right? Everything is occupied. So what happens here is then all the asuras, the other asuras who are Mahabali's, soldiers and others, so they all come to fight. So when they all come to fight, the Lord's people, emissaries are also there. So a small war kind of thing starts there. So at that time, this Mahabali comes and says, Kalatmayam, the one whose time himself is standing in front of us. And as you can see, right, he is Lord himself who's standing. And because of him, everything is happening. So what is the use of fighting? There's no use fighting. So Bali then tells his soldiers to kind of, give up and go back. So they all just go back. So that's what is happening. Here's nothing major. They come to fight. And Bali is saying there's no use fighting because the Lord himself is standing in front. It's just a waste of our time. Right? So Tavad Daityas. So 2 thus coming there. Tavad Daityas Tvanu Matimrite, comma. Next word, you can break it as Bhartur Arabda if you want to, or you can say it together. Bhartur Arabda Yuddhaha, comma. Devo Petair Bhavada Nucharaihi. The is that is there, remove it. Put a visarga and a comma. Bhavada Nucharaihi, comma. Sangata Bhangamapan. तावद्धैत्यास्त्वनुमतिमृते भर्तुरारब्धयुद्धाः देवोपेतैर्भवदनुचरैः सङ्गता भङ्गमापन्.
तावद्दैत्यास्त्वनुमतिमृते भर्तुरारब्धयुद्धाः देवोपेतैर्भवदनुचरैः सङ्गता भङ्गमापन्. तावद्दैत्यास्त्वनुमतिमृते भर्तुरारब्धयुद्धाः देवोपेतैर्भवदनुचरैः सङ्गता भङ्गमापन्.
तावद्दैत्यास्त्वनुमतिमृते भर्तुरारब्धयुद्धाः देवोपेतैर्भवदनुचरैः सङ्गता भङ्गमापन्. तावद्दैत्यास्त्वनुमतिमृते भर्तरारब्धयुद्धाः देवोपेतैर्भवदनुचरैः सङ्गता भङ्गमापन्.
Kalatmayam Vasati Purato, comma. Yadvashat Pragjitaha, is there, put a is, Pragjitas Smaha, comma. Kim vo Yuddhair iti Baligira, comma, Teta Patalam Apuhu. Kalhatmayam Vasati Purato Yadvashat Pragjita Smaha Kimbo Yuddhairiti Baligira Teta Patalam Apuhu.
कालात्मायं वसति पुरतो यद्वशात् प्राग्जिता स्मः किम्बो युद्धैरिति बलिगिरा तेधपातालमापुः कालात्मायं वसति पुरतो यद्वशात् प्राग्जिताः स्मः किम्बो युद्धैरिति बलिगिरा तेधपातालमापुः
कालात्मायं वसति पुरतो यद्दशात् प्राग्जिता स्म किं वो युद्धेरीति बलिगिरा तेथ पातालमापुः कालात्मायं वसति पुरतो यद्यशात्
Sorry, Rupanga, Yadvashat, Dwa.
यद्वशात् प्राग्जिता स्मः किं वो युद्धेरीति बलिगिरा तेथ पातालमापुः.
Stanza 9. Pashairbaddham patagapatinha daitymuchairavadihi tarti ekam dishamama padam kimna vishveshwarosi padham murdni pranaya bhagavan ityakampam vadantam prahladastam swayamupagato manayannastavitvam. So then Garuda is coming and then he's capturing Bali. So he says, Pashair Baddam is tying him with a rope. And then the Lord is telling him, you said you are the ruler of the world, right? You told me I could get whatever I want. So now I have occupied this world, the earth, Bhulokam, as well as Bhuvarlokam, which Bali was ruling. He says, I've occupied all of these. So Disha Mama Padam, in which location can I actually place my third foot that I had actually asked for? She said, Kimna Vishweshwarosi, you said you are the king of the world, right? So what do I do now? So Vamana is asking. So at that time, Bali says, without any hesitation, without worrying about it or any concern about it, he says, Padam Murdni, you can place your foot on my head. Murdni means the top of my head, right? He says, you can place it on top of my head because that is the only thing I have left with me, right? All the land, everything I have is completely gone. And the only thing I have left is myself. So he says, you can place your foot on my head. So when Bali says that, so immediately Prahlada, like we said, Prahlada is the grandfather, right? So Prahlada and everybody comes and they praise Bali for his, his commitment, right, to what he had promised. But the Lord says that, because of what you offered charity, but you couldn't do it. And because of all that, you are going to be sent to Patala for a while. I'll tell in the next stanza what happens. But here it says you are then going to be sent to Patala because you lost all the worlds that you have. So that way, the Bali is then sent to the underworlds. So Pashair Baddham Pata Gapatina, comma, Daityam Uchaira Vadihi. Put a visarga there and a comma. Daityam Uchaira Vadihi, comma. Next line, if you have a is, that goes away. So Tarti Ekam, double ta coming. Tarti Ekam Disha Mama Padam, comma. Kim na Vishweshwarosi. Pashairbaddham patagapatinha Daityamuchairavadhihi Tarti Ekam Disha Mama Padam Kim na Vishweshwarosi.
पाशैर्बद्धं पतगपतिना दैत्यमुच्चैरवादीः तार्तीकं दिश मम पदं किं न विश्वेश्वरोऽसि पाशैर्बद्धं पतगपतिना दैत्यमुच्चैरवादीः तार्तीकं दिश मम पदं किं न विश्वेश्वरोऽसि
पाशे बद्धं पतगपतिनो पतगपति पतगपतिना दैत्यमुच्चेरवादीः तात्तीर्यकं दिश मम पदं किं न विश्वेश्वरोऽसि पाशैर्बद्धं पतगपतिना दैत्यमुच्चेर्यवादीः तात्तीर्यकं दिश मम पदं किं न विश्वेश्वरोऽसि.
The Vishweshwarosi, just be careful. There's a short C at the end, right? Not the long one. Okay. Padam Murdni Pranaya Bhagavan. So there's a double n and the e, ni coming there. So we're going to break it. So Bhagavan, put a in and then a comma. Next word starts with the e. Ityakampam Vadantam, comma. Prahladastam Swayam Upagato, comma. Manayan Nastavit Twam. Double na, Manayan Nastavit Twam. Padham Murdhni Pranaya Bhagavan Ityakampam Vadantam Prahladastam Swayam Upagato Manayan Nastavit Twam.
पादं मूर्ध्नि प्रणय भगवन् इत्यकम्पं वदन्तं प्रह्लादस्तं स्वयमुपगतो मानयन्नस्त्ववीत्वाम् पादं मूर्ध्नि प्रणय भगवन् इत्यकम्पं वदन्तं प्रह्लादस्तं स्वयमुपगतो मानयन्नस्त्ववीत्वाम्
पादं मूर्ध्नि प्रणय भगवन् इत्यकम्पं वदन्तं प्रह्लादस्तं स्वयमुपगतो मानयन्नस्त्ववीत्वाम् पादं मूर्ध्नि प्रणय भगवन् इत्यकम्पं वदन्तं प्रह्लादस्त्वं स्वयमुपगतो मानयन्नस्त्ववीत्वाम्.
The last line, Prahladastam. Okay, not a Twam.
Prahladastam.
Tam, yeah. Stanza 10. Darpo chityai vihitam akhilam daitya siddhosi punyaihi lokaste stutridiva vijayi vasavatvam cha paschat matsayujyam bhajasa punarityanva grinha balim tam Biprai Santanitamakhavaraha Pahi Vatalahesha. So Lord says, oh, you have done a lot of good deeds, like we already said earlier, right? Where he said that Bali is indeed blessed, either because he came the dynasty of Prahlada, or because he has done a lot of charity, or he's done a lot of yajnas, right? So whole bunch of reasons. So he says, you have done a lot of good deeds, and this entire thing was enacted only so that to completely curb your pride. The one problem you had was you had excessive pride. So to eliminate your pride, right, this had to happen. However, you've done a lot of good things. So he says you're going to be sent down to the Sutala world, so to the lower world, Sutala. However, you are going to rule that Sutala world, and eventually you are going to become the next Indra, right? In the next Manvantara, you are going to become the Indra. And with that, the Lord helps. Remember, we had said that whoever Indra is just a position, right? Whoever completes the 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas, and Bali was doing his 100th one. So Lord helps him complete the 100th Ashwamedha Yajna. So with the help of the priest, so they complete it. And then he says, in the next Manvantram, you are going to become the Indra, and then eventually you will attain union with me. So with that, Vatre purchase, Pahi Vatalayesha, Lord of Guruvayur, please protect me. So this is happening, like we said, in the period of the current Manu, right? So Vaivaswada Manu, right? That's what this is happening in the 7th Manu, which is going on, current Manu, which is where this Vamana Avatar is happening. So the next Manu, when it comes, then Bali becomes the Indra. He takes the role of Indra in that next Manvantara. So Darpo Chityai Vihitam Akhilam, comma, Daitya Siddhosi Punyaihi. Put a visarga at the end there and a comma, Punyaihi. Next line, if you have a ir on top of lo, remove that off. Lokas testu tridiva vijayi, comma, vasavatvam cha paschat. Darpochhityai vihitam akhilam daitya siddhosi punyaihi lokaste stutridiva vijayi vasavatvam cha paschat.
Darpochityai vihitamakilam daitya siddhosi punyaihi lokastestu tridiva vijaya vasavatvam cha paschat.
Tridiva vijay. Sorry, so the second line vijayi. Tridiva vijayi.
Darpochityai vihitamakilam daitya siddhosi punyaihi lokastestu tridiva vijayi vasavatvam cha paschat.
Darpochhityai vihitamakilam दैत्यसिद्धोऽसि पुण्यैः लोकस्तेस्तु त्रिविध विजयी वासवत्सं च पश्चात्.
Rupa, second line tridiva. I think you said 3B there.
त्रिदिव विजयी. दर्पोचित्ये विहितमखिलं दैत्यसिद्धोऽसि पुण्यैः लोकस्तेस्तु त्रिदिव विजयी वासवत्सं च पश्चात्.
Second vasavatvam.
वासवत्वं च पश्चात्.
Yeah. Matsa yujyam bhaja sa punarit yanva ghrina. That whole word is together. Punarit yanva ghrina balim tam. So no pause in that line. Comma at the very end of it. Comma. Viprais santanita makha varaha. Comma. Pahi vatalayesha. Matsayujyam bhajasa punarit yanva ghrina balim tam viprais santanita makhavaraha pahi vatalayesha.
Rajesh, third line, bhaja cha or sa?
Bhaja cha.
Cha, okay.
Cha. And
Okay.
so he says you'll be like, you'll become Indra and merge with me. So it's and.
Matsayujyam bhajacha punarityanva balintam viprais santanitamakavaraha pahi vatalayesha. Matsayujyam bhajacha punarityanva balintam viprais santanitamakavaraha pahi vatalayesha.
मत्स्यायुज्यं भज च पुनरित्यान् मत्स्यायुज्यं भज च पुनरित्यान्
Punar ityanva ghrina.
पुनरित्यन्व गृह्णा बलिं तं विप्रैः सन्तानि तममखरवः पाहि वातालयेश.
So Rupan, the last line. Viprais santanita makhavaraha. And then the third line, matsa. It's not matsya. It's mat. It's actually mati sayujyam. So with me you'll merge. So mat sayujyam. There's no ya there. Yeah.
Matsayujyam bhajcha punirityन्व गृह्णान् बलिं तं विप्रैः सन्तानित मखरवरः पाहि वातालयेश.
Makhavaraha. Yeah. Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. It completes 31st. So we'll go on to 32, which is Matsyavataram. Well, so this is a slightly different tune because those are two-liners. So stanza 1. Pura Hayagriva Mahasurena Shashtantharantodhyada kalpe Nidronmukha Brahma Mukadhriteshu Vedeshvaditsah Kila Matsya Rupam. So like we had discussed in one of the earlier chapters, right? That it's not, the sequence is not what we think the sequence is. So there are things are happening in different days of Brahma and different Manus, right? So it's not necessarily, doesn't go in the order we think it is. So here he says, so Parikshit goes and asks Sukabrahman that I heard that the Lord also took the form of a fish, which are like the lower level beings, right, compared to others. He says those are things that humans, when people commit sins and everything, they get into the lower forms. So why is it that the Lord had to be born as a fish? So for that, Sukabrahman says, when the Lord is born as a fish, it's for any number of reasons, but doesn't mean that in the material way, his strength or his power is low. That's not the intention there. So he clarifies that. And then he says there are two instances where Matsyavataram happens. One instance is when the end of Brahma's kalpa, when Brahma, we says everything goes away, everything dissolves, right? So the Vedas, it says Hayagriva. Hayagriva is the Lord also. There is a Lord called Hayagriva. There is also an Asura called Hayagriva. As Hayagriva just means somebody who's got a neck of a horse. That's what it means. So it says some Hayagriva came and took the Vedas away from Brahma, right? That's what they did. But you have to not literally look at it, okay? Because Vedas were never written. It is all just in the sound, right? So what it meant is, when Brahma's day got over and that Kalpa got over, everything went away and Brahma lost the knowledge. So when it says somebody stole it away, that means Brahma lost the knowledge. Because when Brahma comes back the next day or his next beginning of the thing, then the Lord is giving him the Vedas again. That's all of that is explained in the earlier chapter. So he tells him Brahma to meditate, and then Brahma gets the knowledge from the Lord. So all of that is Shruti. It's only heard, right? So anyway, so that is when that happens. He comes as a Matsyam to teach that knowledge, retain it back. The second time where the Matsyavataram happens is at the end of the sixth Manu. So the Chakshruta Manu is the sixth Manu. So that's why Shashtantarandyoda, at the end of the sixth Manu, Chakshusha Manu, and the beginning of the current Manu, which is the Vaivaswata Manu, this Matsyavataram is happening. Okay. So that is the second time where the Matsyavataram is happening. That's the clarification. It happens two times, but what we are going to cover here is the second time when it happened, which is at the end of the sixth Manu and beginning of the seventh Manu, is where this is happening. And the seventh Manu already has happened because the previous chapter happened with the seventh Manu. So this is in the transition period that it is happening. So Pura Hayagriva Mahasurena, comma. So the next word, it's not going to be easy to break it because it's Shashta Antarando Yada Kanda Kalpe, multiple words in there. So you have to say the whole word together. Shashtantaranto. If you want to break it, you can maybe break at the dya that you have there. You can break it into id and a ya. That's one place you can break it. So Shashtantaranto Yada Kanda Kalpe. Okay. Nidron Mukha Brahma Mukhad Dhriteshu, comma, Vedeshwa Ditsaha. So put the ich sound. Vedeshwa Ditsah Kila Matsya Rupam. Pura Hayagriva Mahasurena Shashtantarantodhyadakanda Kalpe Nidronmukha Brahma Mukha Dhriteshu Vedeshwa Ditsah Kila Matsya Rupam.
Pura Hayagriva Mahasurena Sashtantarantodhyadakanda Kalpe Nidronmukha Brahma Mukhadhruteshu Vedeshvaditsakhila Matsya Rupam. Pura Hayagriva Mahasurena Shashtantarantodhyadakanda Kalpe Nidronmukha Brahma Mukhadhruteshu Vedeshvaditsakhila Matsya Rupam.
Pura Hayagriva Mahasurena Shashtantarantodhyatakanda Kalpe Nidranmukha Brahma Mukhadhruteshu Vedeshvaditsakila Matsya Rupam.
Rupa second. Nidronmukha
Brahma.
Yeah.
Pura Hayagriva Mahasurena Shashtantarantodhyatakanda Kalpe Nidranmukha Brahma Mukhadhruteshu Vedeshvadhitsa kilamatsya rupam
Nidron, I think in Nidran you're saying.
Nidron mukha brahma mukhadriteshu.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so we'll switch today. So Radha, you can be a student, and Vaidehi, can you be a student?
Sorry, I can. I was like unmute. Searching for the mute button. Yeah, I can.
Okay. Stanza 2. Satyavradasya dramiladhibhartuhu nadi jale tarpayatastadhanim karanjalau sanjwalita kritistvam adrishyatah kaschana balaminah. So at the end of the 6th manvantra, when that's going on, there was a ruler, but also a sage. He had, eventually, like most people, he had given up everything and had become a sage called Satyavrata. So that Satyavrata, he was a very honest, truthful sage. So that Satyavrata, one day when he was in the river performing Tarpanam, that is Tarpaya, when he was in Nadi Jale on the banks of the river. So here it says he was the king of Dramila, means he's king of the southern part of India. And where you go say, where was he doing this? It's not said in Narayaneeyam, but it says he was doing it in this river called Kritamala. Kritamala is one of the, it's like Vaigai in the South India, right? So he was performing Tarpanam there. So when he was performing Tarpanam there, in his hands suddenly came Kaschana Balaminaha, some baby fish came into his hands. But that baby fish stood out from the rest of the fishes which were there because it was like splendid, it was shining fish that actually came into his hands. So Satya Vratasya Dramiladhi Bhartuhu. So put a visarga after Bhartuhu, comma. On top of the na in the next word, there will be ir on top, so remove that off. So Nadi Jale Tarpayatas Tadanim Karanjalau Sanjwalita Kritis. Together, okay, Sanjwalita Kritis Twam. Put a comma there. So the ma that is there, we're going to make it a im and a a. So twam, comma. Next word becomes a a. Adrishyata. Adrishyataha is there. Put a ich sound. Adrishyatah kaschana bala minaha. Satyavratasya dramiladhibhartuhu nadi jale tarpayatastadanim karanjalau sanjwalita kritestvam adrishyatah kaschana balaminah.
Satyavradasya bhartuhu nadi jale tarpayatastadanim karanjalau sanjwalita kritistvam adrishyatah kaschana balaminah. Satyavradasya brahmiladhibhartuhu nadi jale tarpayatastadanim karanjalau sanjwalita kritistvam adrishyatah kaschana balaminah.
Satyavratasya dramiladhibhartuhu nadi jale tarpayatastadanim karanjalo sanjwalita kritistvam adrishyatah kaschana balaminah. Satyavratasya dramiladhibhartuhu nadi jale tarpayatastadanim karanjalo sanjwalita kritistvam adrishyatah kaschana balaminah.
Stanza 3. Kshiptam jale tvam chakitam vilokya ninye bhupatrena muniswageham swalpairahobih kalashim chakupam vapim saraschana shishe vibhotvam. So now when the fish ends up in his hand, when he tries to put the fish back into the water, this being a special fish, it starts talking to him and he says, "Oh sage, oh leader, you are such a merciful person. if you put me back into this water, there are other bigger fishes in there who are going to end up eating me. So he says, do not put me in the water, take me home with you. So what this person does, he says, okay, you know what, he doesn't want to kill this fish. So he then takes the fish and then he puts it first in his kamandalu, ambu patrena. So he's carrying like a jug, right? So he puts this fish into the jug and then he takes it home or wherever he is, Satyavrata. So when he takes it home, then all of a sudden it starts growing in size. So some of these things you can't ask me how it happens because I don't know either, right? So it starts suddenly growing in size. And then now it is outgrown this. So next he puts it in a kalashim. Kalashim means a bigger vessel or a pot, a kalasham, right? So he puts it into a kalasham. It now outgrows the kalasham. So when it outgrows the kalasham, then he goes and puts it into a kupam. Kupam means a well or a water body. He goes, puts it there. It outgrows that. Next, he then goes and puts it into a vapi. Vapi means like a tank or like a water body that is there. So it outgrows that also. Then eventually he goes and puts it into a saram. Saram means a lake or a river. So he goes and puts it into some other place. So all of a sudden this is growing in size instantly. And then he's somehow transporting it. So kshiptam jale tvam chakitam bilokya, comma, ninyembhu patrena munihi, put a is, munis swageham, swalpaira hobihi, is that put a ich sound, hobih, kalashim chakupam, comma, vapim saraschanashishe, together, saraschanashishe vibho tvam. So here Bhattaripat says, O Lord, vibho tvam, you, O Lord, grew in size, right? Kshiptam jale tvam chakitam vilokya ninyembu patrena muniswageham swalpairahobih kalashim chakupam vapim saraschana shishe vibhotvam.
क्षिप्तं जले त्वां चकितं विलोक्य निन्येम्बुपात्रेण मुनिस्वगेहं स्वल्पैरहोभिः कलशीं च कूपं वापीं शरश्चानसिषे विभो त्वम् क्षिप्तं जले त्वां चकितं विलोक्य निन्येम्बुपात्रेण मुनिस्वगेहं स्वल्पैरहोभिः कलशीं च कूपं वापीं शरश्चानसिषे विभो त्वम्
क्षिप्तं जले त्वां चकितं विलोक्य निन्येम्बुपात्रेण मुनिस्वगेहं स्वल्पैरहोभिः कलशीं च कूपं वापीं सरश्चानशिषे विभो त्वम् क्षिप्तं जले त्वां चकितं विलोक्य निन्येम्बुपात्रेण मुनिस्वगेहं स्वल्पैरहोभिः कलशीं च कूपं वापीं सरश्चानशिषे विभो त्वम्.
Stanza 4. Yoga prabhavat bhavadajñahaiva nitastatastvam munina payodhim prishto muna kalpa didrukshumenham saptahamasveti vadannayasihi. So then it says here, yoga prabhavat. No wonder he's a sage and no wonder he's the current Manu. So he has to be a powerful person. So because of the yogic powers that he had, he now takes this fish and takes it to an ocean. And when he goes and puts it in the ocean, the fish gives the same complaint saying that there are bigger sharks here. But he says at the time he's already realized that this is not an ordinary fish. So he then goes, Satyavrata goes and tells the fish that I really need to know who you are. You are probably the Lord himself who has actually come here. And I don't know why you have taken this form of a fish. So at that time, the Lord said that he did this the last time to help out, right? When like we said earlier, at the night of Brahma, when it came, he had done this. So Satyavrata says that, so the Lord says, I'm thankful to you, right? Because you were putting up with this. So he says, what do you want? So Satyavrata says, I want to be able to experience the pralaya, the pralayam that happens, right? The naimittika pralayam, which happens during the night of Brahma. I want to be able to experience it and see it. So that is my wish, he says. So there is one other person who had this wish. Anybody know who it was? One other person where the Lord comes in front and says, what do you want? And he says, I want to witness the pralayam.
Markandeya.
Correct.
Markandeya Rishi.
Markandeya Rishi. So Markandeya, when he does all these tapas, and this comes later on, I think 88, 89 chapter, 97th chapter, sorry, where he says, I want to experience the pralayam. So what happens? Or he says, I want to experience your Maya. That's what he says. So all of a sudden, what happens is Markandeya is sitting, and suddenly there's water everywhere, and he then begins to swim in this water, right? There's absolutely nothing, just water everywhere, and somehow he's just swimming for years, for a really long time, and he doesn't see anything. And that's where he sees on a leaf, right, the Krishna, a baby Krishna lying down with the foot in the mouth. So that image, that's the image that Markandeya sees, and that happens. And then when he goes and he realizes what's happening, and then he goes to the Lord, and then the Lord comes and says that all of this was just what you were visualizing, right? Because you wanted to experience the Maya. So this was all something that you felt as if it was you were going through it, but nothing was happening there. And then suddenly Markandeya finds himself back in the ashramam where he was sitting, and everything back to normal, right? So anyway, so here Satyavrata says, I want to be able to see that pralayam, right, when you come. So the Lord says, Saptaham, wait for 1 week, and then you will see what's going to happen, right? And then the fish goes away. So, yoga prabhavat bhavadagnyayeva, comma, nitas tatas tvam munina payodhim prishto muna kalpa didrukshu menam, comma, saptaham asveti vadanna yasihi. Yoga prabhavat bhavadagnyayeva nitas tatas tvam munina payodhim prishto muna kalpa didrukshu menam saptaham asveti vadanna yasihi.
योगप्रभावात् भवदाज्ञयैव नीतस्ततस्त्वं मुनिना पयोधिं पृष्टो मुना कल्पति दृक्षुमेनं सप्ताहमास्वेति वदन्नयासीः योगप्रभावात् भवदाज्ञयैव नीतस्ततस्त्वं मुनिना पयोधिं पृष्टो मुना कल्पति दृक्षुमेनं सप्ताहमास्वेदि वदन्नयासीः
योगप्रभावात् भवदाज्ञयैव नीतस्ततस्त्वं मुनिना पयोधिं पृष्टो मुना कल्पति दृक्षुमेनं सप्ताहमास्वेति वदन्नयासीः योगप्रभावात् भवदाज्ञयैव नीतस्ततस्त्वं मुनिना पयोधिं पृष्टो मुना कल्पति दृक्षुमेनं सप्ताहमास्वेति वदन्नयासीः.
Stanza 5. Prapte twadukte hani varidhara pariplute bhumitale munindraha saptarshibhis sardhamaparavarini udghurnamana sharanam yayotvam. So then what Satyavrata does is, for the next 7 days, he is then constantly meditating on the form of the Lord, on the form of the fish. So he's meditating. And when the time comes, when the 7th day comes, then Varidhara, this like heavy incessant rain, right, that is actually happening. And this continuous rain that happens, and the entire world seems completely filled with water. So when all of that happens, then he remembers what the instructions the Lord had given. The Lord had told him that when you do this, the Sapta Rishis will also come, right? The people who are the Rishis who are going to become the Sapta Rishis for the next Manvantara. So they will also come, and I want all of you to then get onto a boat, but that actually comes later. He says, I want all of you to be together, right? So the Sapta Rishis come, and he and them and Satyavrata then start Sharanam Yayotvam. They completely start looking for you and praying to you, seeking refuge in you. So Prapte Twadukte Hani, comma, Vari Dhara Pariplute Bhumitale Munindraha. Saptarshibhi is there, put is Saptarshibis Sardham Apara Varini. So that you have there, remove that you of, first put a Varini, short ni, and comma. The next word starts with the U. Udghurna manaha, put a ish, manash, sharanam yayau tvam. Prapte tvadukthe hani varidhara pariplute bhumitale munindraha saptarshibhis sardhamaparawarini udgurnamana sharanam yayau tvam.
प्राप्ते त्वदुक्ते हनि वारिधारा परिप्लुते भूमितले मुनीन्द्रः सप्तर्षिभिः सार्धमपारवारिणि उद्घूर्णमानश्चरणं ययौ त्वां. The tune, Rajesh.
प्राप्ते त्वदुक्ते हनि वारिधारा परिप्लुते भूमितले मुनीन्द्रः.
प्राप्ते त्वदुक्ते हनि वारिधारा परिप्लुते भूमितले मुनीन्द्रः सप्तर्षिभिः सार्धमपारवारिणि उद्घूर्णमानश्चरणं ययौ त्वां. प्राप्ते त्वदुक्ते हनि वारिधारा परिप्लुते भूमितले मुनीन्द्रः.
I think that's where I think the Munindraha, when you said it, you suddenly lost your tune. So Munindraha.
Munindraha saptarshibhis sardhamaparawarini udghurnamana sharanam yayau tvam.
प्राप्ते तदुक्ते हनि वारिधारा परिप्लुते भूमितले मुनीन्द्रः सप्तर्षिभिः सार्धमपारवारिणि उद्घूर्णमानः शरणं ययौ त्वाम्. प्राप्ते त्वदुक्ते हनि वारिधारा परिप्लुते भूमितले मुनीन्द्रः सप्तर्षिभिः सार्धमपारवारिणि उद्घूर्णमानः शरणं ययौ त्वाम्.
Stanza 6. Dharam twadadesha karimavaptam naurupineemaruruhustadhate tatkampakam preshu chateshu bhuyah tomam bhudera virabhur mahiyan. So here is where we'll have to, it will be hard for us to kind of actually understand what's going on, because what actually happens is the Saptarishis and Satyavrata are no longer going in the earthly space, right? They're actually going in a completely different region. Now, I don't know whether they are actually traveling in space or they're actually going to the Garbhodaka ocean, which remains at the very bottom, where Kurmavataram, Varahavatam actually went and the Lord rescued the earth out, right? So that was at the Garbhodaka ocean at the very bottom. So I don't know if it is there or if they're going through, but anyway, so here it says they now get into this something which is like a boat, some place where they're sitting. And when that goes and they're going through these waters, so then what happens is they are like really afraid of what's going on, because it's water everywhere and they don't see anything else. So at that time, you come again, and you come again in the form of a really large fish. So what that is comes later. And the reason I'm saying no longer earth is later on, it comes that when they are going, they are actually able to see all the worlds. So we have to kind of imagine that they're no longer in the earthly plane at this point, right? So, but they are going on some boat, and then it starts trembling, and the Lord comes, and then he comes in the form of even a bigger fish. The fish will become even bigger, and it will describe it further in the next stanza. So, dharam twadadesha karim avaptam, comma, now rupinim aruruhus tadate. You can break it. Now rupinim aruruhus tadate tat kampreshu cha teshu bhuyaha. That is there. Replace it with the visarga and a comma. Bhuyaha. Next word, I'll break it into 4 parts so you can say it easily. Tvam ambudher avirabhur mahiyan. You can even say it together. Tvam ambudher avirabhur mahiyan. You can say it together, or you break it as Tvam ambudher avirabhur mahiyan. Dharam twadadeshakarimavaptam naurupineemaruruhustadate tatkampakam preshu chateshu bhuyah Tomam bhudera virabhur mahiyan.
Dharam twadadeshakarimavaptam naurupinim aruruhustadate tatkambakam preshu chateshu bhuyah tvam ambhuder avirabhurmahiyan. Dharam twadadeshakarimavaptam naurupinim aruruhustadate tatkambakam preshu chateshu bhuyah tvam ambhuder avirabhurmahiyan.
Dharam twadadeshakarimavaptam naurupineemaruruhustadate Tvatkampakam preshu chateshu bhuyah tvamambhudera virabhur mahiyan.
Vaidehi, the third line, tat kampakam preshu. I think you said twat.
Tat. Okay. Tatkampa. Okay. Dharam padadeshakarimavaptam naurupineemaruruhustadate tatkampakam preshu chateshu bhuyah Tvamambhudera virabhur mahiyan.
Stanza 7. Jasha kritim yojana laksha dhirgam dadhanamuchai starate jasam tvam nirikshya tushta munayastvaduktya tvattunga shringe taranim bhabandhuhum. So like it happened in the Kurma Avataram, right, where also the same word came, Lakshana Yoga Dhirgam, Yojana Dhirgam, which means like it is almost 1,000,000 Yojana. So that just means it's really big, right? So you can't measure exactly, which is really massive size fish. Then the fish which had come back is really massive. And then that fish, then they tie, somehow they connect the boat they are sitting to this fish using Vasuki. And then the Lord then takes them on the journey across the world, which comes later. But they are extremely happy because he sees that the Lord has come back again to protect them here. So Jasha Kritim Yojana Laksha Dirgham, comma, Dadhanam Uchais Tara Tejasam Tvam Nirikshya Tushta Munayas Twaduktya, comma, Tvattunga, so double, this one it and a tha there. Tvattunga Shringe Taranim Babandhuhu. Jasha kritim yojana laksha dhirgam dadhanamuchai starate jasam tvam nirikshya tushta munayastvaduktya tvattunga shringe taranim babandhuhu.
Shashakritim yojana lakshadikha dadhanamuchai starate jasam tvam nirikshya tushta munayastvaduktya tvattunga shringe taranim babandhuhu. Shashakritim yojana lakshadikha dadhanamuchai starate jasam tvam nirikshya tushta munayastvaduktya Tvattunga shringe taranim babandhuhu.
Jasha kritim yojana laksha dirgham dadhanamuchai starate jasam tvam nirikshya tushta munayastvaduktya tvattunga shringe taranim babandhuhu. Jasha kritim yojana laksha dirgham dadhanamuchai starate jasam tvam Nirikshya tushta munayastvaduktya nirikshya tushta munayastvaduktya tvattunga shringe taranim babandhuhu.
Stanza 8. Krishtanauko munimandalaya pradarshayhin vishvajagad vibhagan samstuyamano nrivarena tena Jnanam param chopadishanna charihi. That's why, like I said earlier, Muni, all the sages, the Lord now takes them and shows them all the other worlds. So they all go on a journey, Mari. So at the time, the Satyavrata and all the sages sing various hymns to praise the Lord. And then because these Sapta Rishis and Satyavrata are going to take over the next Manvantara, so the Lord now has to impart knowledge to them, just like what happened to Brahma, right? So he then teaches them all the philosophy, right, of the Sankhya philosophy, the Bhakti Yoga, all the philosophy is taught. So there are in each of those avatarams, or in specific avatarams, this preaching happens, right? So in Vaman Avataram, there was no preaching. It just came. Narsimha Avataram, nothing much, right? So Krishna Avataram, Gita is there. But in the Matsya Avataram, this is a Matsya Purana, right? So there's a teaching that actually happens where he's teaching them all the ultimate knowledge of the Brahman and all the knowledge they need, right, to be able to rule, which is the same thing which Brahma also was taught when he starts the process of creation. So the Lord then teaches them everything, and so that they have no doubt about the absolute truth. So Akrishta Nauko Muni Mandalaya, Pradarshayan Vishwa Jagat Vibhagan Samstuyamano Nrivarena Tena, Jnanam Param Chopa Dishanna Charihi. Jnanam Param means the absolute knowledge, the highest of knowledge. Akrishtanauko Munimandalaya Pradarshayyan Vishwajagat Vibhagan Samstuyamano Nrivarena Tena Jnanam Param Chopadishanna Charihi.
Akrishtanauko Munimandalaya Pradarshayyan Vishwajagadvibhagan Samstuyamano Nrivarena Tena Jnanam Param Chopadishanna Charihi. Akrishtanauko Munimandalaya Pradarshayyan Vishwajagadvibhagan Samstuyamano Nrivarena Tena Jnanam Param Chopadishanna Charihi.
Akrishtanauko Munimandalaya Pradarshayyan Vishwajagat Vibhagan Samstuyamano Nrivarena Tena Jnanam Param Chopadishanna Charihi. Akrishtanauko Munimandalaya Pradarshayyan Vishwajagat Vibhagan Samstuyamano Nrivarena Tena Jnanam Param Chopadishanna Charihi.
Stanza 9. Kalpavadhau saptamunin purovate prastapya satyavrata bhumipam tam vaivasvatakyam manumadadhanaha krodhat hayagrivam abhidruto bhuh. So then when the time comes for the Chakshusha Manu's time gets over, so at that time this Satyavrata is then born as Vaivaswata. Vivaswan means son. So Vivaswan's son is Vaivaswata. So he's born as Vaivaswata, and because he becomes the Manu, he's called Vaivaswata Manu. So that's the current 7th Manu. So when this 7th Manu, then he establishes or he starts his duties as a 7th Manu, and then the Sapta Rishis who were also there, even the Sapta Rishis change from Manu to Manu. So this 7 Sapta Rishis who were then established, they are also now taking on their respective spots, right, of taking on their responsibilities. And so similarly, just like how in the first time when the Matsyavataram happens, which is at the night of Brahma, so at that time the Lord is going and regaining the knowledge and giving it to Brahma. Similarly, he has given the knowledge here for to these people as well, and then establishing them in their respective positions. So Kalpavadhau Saptamunin Purovate, Prastapya Satyavrata Bhumipam Tam Vaivasvatakyam Manum-adadhanaha, if you want to break it, Manum-adadhanaha, Krodadhayagrivam. So there's a the and then another the coming at the bottom. So Krodadhayagrivam Abhidruto Bhuhu. So it is actually Krodat Hayagrivam is the right word there. but because id and ha is coming, so in some situations it becomes a the underneath it. So some books might have it as two separate words, but you can say it together. That's how most books have it. Kalpavadhau saptamunin purovate prastapya satyavrata bhumipam tam vaivasvatakyam manumadadhanah krodadhayagrivam abhidhruto bhuh.
कल्पावधौ सप्तमुनीन् पुरोवत् प्रस्ताप्य सत्यप्रदभूमिपं तं वैवस्वदाख्यं मनुमादधानः क्रोधादयग्रीवमभिद्रुतो भूः कल्पावधौ सप्तमुनीन् पुरोवत् प्रस्ताप्य सत्यप्रदभूमिपं तं वैवस्वदाख्यं मनुमादधानः क्रोधादयग्रीवमभिद्रुतो भूः
कल्पावधौ सप्तमुनीन् पुरोवत् प्रस्ताप्य सत्यव्रतभूमिपं तं वैवस्वताख्यं मनुमादधानः क्रोधाधयग्रीवमभिधृतो भूः कल्पावधौ सप्तमुनीन् पुरोवत् प्रस्ताप्य सत्यव्रतभूमिपं तं वैवस्वताख्यं मनुमादधानः क्रोधाधयग्रीवमभिधृतो भूः.
Stanza 10. Swatunga shringa kshatavakshasam tam nipatya daityam nigaman grihitva virinchaye prita hride dadhanah prabhanjanagara pate prapayah. So Pratipat says, oh, prabhanjana means, so it's two meaning. Prabhanjana means vayu, it also means vayu. So prabhanjanagara means one who resides in the place of vayu, which is Guruvayur, right? And then incidentally there's a oil which they, or not an oil, it's like a cream or oil, whatever you want to say it, which they put to the Lord in Guruvayur, to Krishna, which is also called prabhanjana. So that you can even get it sometimes, and that is for, again, if you have any problems with rheumatoid arthritis or anything which is due to excessive vayu, this helps cure that, right? So there's two meanings here. One is prabhanjanagara pade, means one who resides in Guruvayur. So Bhartripat says, just like how when Brahma's kalpa ended, when the Vedas were stolen, right? You got rid of Hayagriva there, that Asura Hayagriva, and then you gave the Vedas back to Brahma, and you made Brahma happy. The Virinchaye, you made the Brahma extremely happy. So similarly, please eradicate my prapayaha. Please eradicate and protect me and eradicate any ailments I might have. O Prabhanjanagara Pate, O Lord of Guruvayur. So with that, Bhartripat ends Matsyavatara. So like I said, there are two times when this is happening. The 9th one completes the 6th to 7th transition, but it also happened at the end of Brahma's day or night. Sorry. Swatunga shringa kshata vakshasam tam, comma, nipatya daityam nigaman grihitva virinchaye prita hride dadanaha, comma, prabhanjanagara pate. So it's together, prabhanjanagara pate prapayaha. Swatunga shringa kshatavakshasam tam nipatya daityam nigaman grihitva virinchaye prita hride dadhanah prabhanjanagara pate prapayah.
स्वतुङ्गशृङ्गक्षतवक्षसं तं निपात्य दैत्यं निगमान् गृहीत्वा विरिञ्जये प्रीतहृदे ददानः प्रभञ्जनागारपते प्रपायाः स्वतुङ्गशृङ्गक्षतवक्षसं तं निपात्य दैत्यं निगमान् गृहीत्वा विरिञ्जये प्रीतहृदे ददानः प्रभञ्जनागारपदे प्रपायाः
स्वतुङ्गशृङ्गक्षतवक्षसं तं निपात्य दैत्यं निगमान् गृहीत्वा विरिञ्चये प्रीतहृदे ददानः प्रपञ्चनागारपते प्रपायाः
Vaidehi, so in the last line, prabhanja bha.
प्रभञ्ज स्वतुङ्कशुङ्कक्षतवक्षसं तं निपात्य दैत्यं निगमान् गृहीत्वा विरिञ्चये प्रीतहृदे ददानः प्रभञ्जनागारपते प्रपायाः.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. We'll end the class today. Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadebhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurpurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavad bhati sakshat gurupavanapure hanta bhagyam janaham. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि.